welcome back to Service Writers Workshop number 3, From Greeting the Customer Through Selling the Job. I'm Thom Tschetter, and I'll be your host again today as we go through this workshop. In the form of a review and a bit of a preview, let's look at a few topics that we have talked about before and that we'll also be covering today. How do customers feel about car repairs? It's one area we're going to look at. Another is, what's the purpose of our service sales procedural system? Why does it work? How does it work? How will our service sales system affect our customers' feelings and make it easier for them to make buying decisions? And what are the steps of our services, of the procedure itself, and why do they work? How do they all work together? So, first of all, let's take a look at our customers, what the cruel facts about our market, the things that we have to face just to get started. First of all, remember, customers don't want what we sell. Car repairs of any kind are just a hassle to people. They're not really interested in what we have to sell. Customers do not trust our industry. They fear getting ripped off. Customers are scared because they don't understand the technical side of their cars. Cars are getting more and more technical every day. The day of the guy coming in and having some idea what's wrong with his car is pretty much in the past. Customers don't know the difference between fraud and an honest mistake, or as I said before, fraud and incompetence. The minute something doesn't seem to go right, they automatically assume that we're trying to rip them off, rather than the possibility that we might just be making an honest mistake. Customers think it's going to cost too much. And as we've covered again in the past, any amount of money is too much because they don't want to spend any money on car repairs. And customers think it's going to take too long. And again, because we don't want to be inconvenienced in today's society, because we're always in a hustle, trying to get from one point to the next, any amount of time to be without a car is too much. So they're always going to think it takes too long. We talked about in seminar number 1 the 6 hassles that everyone hates about car repairs, and just to quickly recap those, the loss of mobility is hassle number 1. It's the main reason people procrastinate about getting their cars fixed. They don't want to be without transportation. It takes too long. At least it seems to them it takes too long. Too long to get your appointment, and then too long to get your car back. Not knowing the what's and the whys, not knowing what was wrong, what's going to be done, why it's going to be done. Basically, a lack of information about the process that's going to be used for getting their car back on the road for them. Paying too much. Really, when it comes down to it, they don't want to spend any amount of money, so any amount's going to seem like too much, but bottom line here is they don't feel as though they're getting value. The price estimate always goes up. It seems like no matter where you take your car or really get any kind of service work anymore, that it seems as though the estimate you get on the front end is never the same as what you end up paying by the time the job's done. And they don't really like that happening. They consider that a hassle. And having to pay again and again. In other words, the warranty itself not being honored and the hassles associated with having to use the warranty. So we, in that first seminar, covered one of our clients who had developed a customer service pledge. And that customer service pledge, in a nutshell, is listed here about the promises that they've made to their customers. And they actually post this pledge on the wall. You can refer back to the first seminar to look at it in more detail. But it's quite a pledge, and it certainly makes a bold statement that the customer would be able to measure how well the shop did at fulfilling the promises they've made. So what do you think? Any company that delivers on this pledge is clearly a great company. I think you'd have to agree with that. But can you see how it would also help bring in better quality customers and higher sales due to the greater perceived value that there might be associated with a company that delivers on a pledge like that? And can you see how it would create great word-of-mouth advertising and great referrals? And do you believe that you can, in your shop, in your company, and with your own skills and commitment, can you deliver the goods? Can you do this? Could you deliver on a pledge like this? And more importantly, could you commit to the spirit of the hassle-free auto service pledge? Might not be the right thing for your shop. It's something that one of our clients has done and is doing a great job with. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. That's a quote from Henry Ford, and of course we know that he was a can-do thinker. How procedures make us great? Well, it begins with the fact that everyone's working from a common knowledge and knowing what needs to be done. So it begins with knowing what needs to be done as a team, as a company, as an individual. Knowing how it needs to be done. Knowing why it needs to be done. And doing it right. Unless you know those things, you can't even begin to do it right. But behind that is doing it for the right reasons. Just doing it right, but not understanding really what is driving it is maybe even more of a factor here. And this all leads to being able to do it consistently. Doing it consistently and doing it with passion. You need to be passionate about what you do. So bottom line here is doing it right in the right ways for the right reasons. And you also need to be so committed, and your team needs to be so committed, that you'll even do it right in the right ways for the right reasons when nobody's looking. So it's like on automatic pilot. It takes more than great systems and procedures, though, to be a great company. You need great facilities. Clean, inviting, well-equipped, well-lit, nice signs, fresh appearance, nice waiting rooms, a professional staff that looks good, looks sharp. What is the old Gillette thing? Look sharp, be sharp. And so you want to have them in good, clean uniforms. They want to have good tools. You want them to be friendly and courteous and helpful. Create a warm, hospitable environment for your customers. Great attitudes, an accommodating attitude, warm hospitality. And again, you want to have a you bet, yes we can spirit in your center. You might have to make some changes to make this happen. But if you always do what you always did, you'll always get what you always got. If you don't change something, how can you expect a different result? In the past seminar, we also looked at what we call the satisfaction index. And basically the point here is how we need to, in a very short period of time, through the use of our procedures, not only fix the car for the customer, but we need to change someone who may be a perfect stranger into a customer for life. And we move them up that continuum to take them from stranger to customer for life. And that it's easy to perform in the area of what I call the area of indifference. This is where you don't exceed their expectations or fall short of their expectations. It's just kind of, you delivered the goods in the way they expected, in the way it's always been done before. Nothing, really remarkable one way or the other. But if we do exceed their expectations, we can turn these people into raving fans, which is part of the customers for life culture. The downside is if we fall significantly short of their expectations, then we're below what they expect, and they may become terrorists. I don't mean they're going to come and throw a bomb at your business or something, but what I'm referring to is they're out bad-mouthing you. They're actively doing damage to your business and your reputation. Clearly, given the choice, we want them to be raving fans. But worst case, we don't want it to be any more than an indifferent experience. So here's how we do it here. This is how we do it here as sort of an expression that's been coined for any of our clients that are trying to get their team to be oriented toward using procedures. And by having that expression, this is how we do it here, then you have some standard to hold people accountable to. So the procedural steps include a telephone procedure. How do we get the car into the center? How do we get the customer to allow us to bring the car into the center? Step 2 is what we call meet and greet. It's part of the check-in procedure, and there's specific things we want to accomplish during that. Step 3 is, by the way, today's seminar will begin essentially with the meet and greet because the telephone is so important. We've handled that in a separate seminar. Step 3 is the free pre-check. It's a test drive and some visual checks, but you kind of define for yourself what's included in your pre-check. Selling knowledge. It's another way of looking at why we should charge for diagnostic testing. Cell teardowns and inspections. These are for jobs that are so major or they have concealed damage that we need to do this before we can even discuss what needs to be done, why it needs to be done, and any price alternatives. Cell choices. This is different repair qualities and maybe different packages of repairs if there's multiple problems, and then different warranties to go with them. Car delivery, part of the Customers for Life service culture, because it's how we return the car to the customer. What's the condition of the car? What are the circumstances? What do we say? It's a specific procedure. That's part of what will be covered in our Part 4. Again, in Part 4 will be our after-delivery checks and after-delivery services and how we stay in touch with the customer and deal with comebacks, things like this. So these are our procedural steps, and we're going to be covering steps 2 through 6 today. Now, this Service Writers Workshop is different than most. We talked about it in workshop number 1, how this series would be different. And just to revisit that, first of all, it's not a how-to-do-it workshop. I'm not going to try to put words in your mouth. You have a personal sales and management style. You're going to couple it with the skills and techniques that you're going to learn in the workshop series, and that will serve to guide you. Okay? It's more of a what to do to be great workshop. What are the things we need to accomplish? What do we need to convey to a customer at various steps? What are the steps? There'll be emphasis on the purpose of each step, on the key points that must be done to successfully accomplish each step, and the defining moments of each step. Remember in the first seminar we talked about defining moments as the little things that separate us from the competition. Anyone can copy the big things. If you're a transmission shop, basically all transmission shops do the same thing. They take cars in and fix transmissions. It's the little things they do that separate them from the rest of the pack. And those are what I call defining moments. We're going to look at what the defining moments are in each step and why it's important to do each step rather than skipping them. And finally, what are the benefits of doing each of the steps? The benefits to the customer, to the business, to the employees, and to you, the manager. Let's look at the telephone procedure recap just because it's the first thing that's going to happen. It's the most important for getting new customers in the shop. Repeat customers, they're going to be easy to get in. They're already in love with you. They're already customers for life. So this is more for how do you deal with a stranger on the phone. And you have to understand that the purpose of the telephone procedure is to get the car into the center. Second, all we can offer them on the phone is an appointment for a free pre-check, free towing or towing for a small fee, free pickup service, bring the car in that way, or a house call, or maybe some other creative way. But you don't want to offer prices or estimates of any kind or any kind of diagnostic information or commentary that they may try to bait you into answering certain other questions. You want to avoid that type of conversation until you've had a chance to check the car first. And the reason is simply you can't provide accurate information without checking the car. And our promise is accurate quotes, not guesstimates. We don't want to be guessing at prices. So this step, as I said earlier, is so important that we've actually devoted an entire training video to it. It's video, or part number 2 of our video series, and it's called Ring Ring How Much? Converting Telephone Shoppers into Appointments. So now let's get going into today's workshop, specifically in the area of the meet and greet, which is actually step 2 in the full series of procedures. with the telephone procedure being the first step. So in the meet and greet procedure, we have a specific purpose here for doing it. One, we want to build rapport with the customer. We want to establish a common ground. We want the customer to feel comfortable with us, and we want to, frankly, get a little bit of a comfort level with the customer. Next, we want to confirm what the customer's concerns are. Why is he bringing his car in? What are his expectations with this car? Maybe he's concerned about something that's perfectly normal with the car. And for us to take any money from him is only going to be creating a problem, because we can't make it work any better. And now he's going to be unhappy with us for having accepted money for not improving his problem. So we want to confirm if there's any pre-existing conditions or problems or recent work that's been done to the car. We're going to do what's called a write-up in our industry, and that's basically getting the information into a document, whether it's a repair order or some sort of a preliminary questionnaire. But we're going to begin the write-up process of gathering information about the individual customer and about his vehicle. Then we want to explain the process that we use. This is how we do it here. I mean, we not only want our team to know how we do it here, but we need to communicate how we do it here to our customer. And we're going to explain the process to alleviate any fear or confusion this customer may have. Remember, one of the hassles that are listed in the 6 hassles people hate about car repairs is that they don't understand what's going on. They're blindsided by every step of the way. They don't go into repair shops every day. We're there every day. We're so familiar with the process, we don't even think twice about it. But to the customer, it may be, if you're a transmission shop, it might be a once-in-a-lifetime experience. If you're a general repair shop, maybe 2, 3, 4 times a year experience. But certainly it's not a common everyday thing for them. So they're going to have a certain level of fear and confusion every time they go in. It's kind of like taking your pet to the vet. It's one of the best analogies that I've ever heard regarding car repair. And we should be aware of that. When you take your pet into the veterinarian, you're taking them there because there's something, you know there's something wrong with this pet. Something just isn't right. But you don't know what it is. And worse yet, the pet can't tell you what it is. So that your car is the pet, the shop is the vet, and you're trying to communicate to this car repair center as a customer what the symptoms seem to be. Now, why it's such a good analogy about a pet and a vet is the pet can't tell me what's wrong. The car can't tell me what's wrong. The other thing is, I have to be aware of the fact that even though I love this pet of mine, if the problem is too severe and my pet's too old and it's going to cost too much money to fix my pet, I may put it down. Just like your customer may decide not to fix the car for those very same reasons. So it's like taking your pet to the vet, and if you'll have that in your mind, you'll understand too that if you were taking your pet into a vet, you would be concerned about those things, and you'd also be concerned about the welfare of the pet and the skills of the vet. And the better job this vet does of communicating with you, of relating with you, of building rapport with you, and doing a great diagnosis, the more confidence you're going to have in leaving your best loved pet in the hands of that veterinarian. So let's move on and see what we can do to create that sort of a great feeling. What is the offer that we can make to the customer during the meet and greet procedure? Well, we can offer to do the free pre-check. Just like we offered it on the phone, that's all we really have to offer here at this point is the free pre-check, because until we get some information about the car, we really can't give them any more information than we could on the phone. We need to do an explanation of what the pre-check involves. What are the steps in the pre-check? What can we expect to find in doing the pre-check? If you have a pre-printed pre-check form of some type, this would be the time when you'd fill it out. We should explain to the customer that there's really 4 possible results of the pre-check. And we'll go over those 4 possible results in a bit, but there's really basically 4 possible results of the pre-check. But what we don't want to offer is any kind of a price estimate or a quote or any speculation or guess as to what this job might run into, because frankly we haven't even looked at the car at this point. We might have seen it through the window when they drove in, best case. We don't want to offer any diagnostic opinions even at this point. Why wouldn't you? Well, for the basic reason that we said on the phone. You can't give accurate prices without checking the car first. Our promise is for accurate price quotes, not guesstimates. So if you'll do this step well, this rapport building, this questioning, all of this, you'll build trust with the customer, and it's going to make the rest of the sale that much easier. And I think as we go through this, you'll see how it can flow. So when the customer walks in, these are the steps. You want to smile and give a nice, warm, friendly greeting. You should do that out of courtesy with anybody anyhow. A nice, warm, friendly greeting. Remember, this customer's already having a bad day. They wouldn't be coming into a repair shop if they weren't. So try to be as hospitable as possible. Have a hospitable environment. Maybe have some refreshments there. At least some coffee or soft drinks or something. Break the ice. Ask some questions about the customer's car and concerns. Make them be open-ended questions if you can. Like, tell me a little bit about your car. Who normally drives it? Well, my wife normally drives it, but lately my daughter's got her license now and she's driving it a little bit more. I see. Well, how far does she have to drive to work? Is it a long way? Or, and you're just engaging them in a conversation, but gathering information at the same time. You don't want to come across like the old Dragnet series where Joe Friday would just grill the person and they feel like there's a spotlight on them or something. You need to make these questions open-ended and conversational, but you need to have a purpose to the questions. You're trying to get information to help you, 1, determine what's wrong with the car, 2, what you're looking for when you go out, 3, how the person feels about the car, 4, maybe what his plans are with the car. All this will help you to be better prepared to make the sale when it's necessary to present the actual service solutions. You want to help the customer fill out the pre-check if it's something that you're asking them to fill out, or if you're going to do it with a computer system, you would actually just start asking them with the questions. Explain what the pre-check is, what we're going to do on the pre-check. Different types of auto repair businesses can do more things than others for free. Others, maybe it's not going to be much more than going out, checking for loose belts, obvious loose wires, doing a road test. A road test should always be part of it so that you can confirm what's going on. Okay, the key points you want to explain during the meet and greet are what the pre-check includes. That in this case, for this example, it includes a road test to confirm the concern, a visual check to see if something simple will fix the problem. Now, some shops may go as far as to bring it in, put it on a lift. But, you decide how much you're going to do with a free pre-check. There's 4 possible results of the pre-check. And, again, depending on your particular specialty, maybe there's fewer or maybe there's more. But I think this pretty well covers most automotive repair centers. Possibility number 1, there isn't a problem. The customer thinks there's a problem, may have felt something, but it seems to be operating normal. The second possibility is there's some sort of a minor service or an external problem that can correct the problem. In other words, we don't have to do any kind of major work. There's not major expense involved. We're going to be able to determine the problem perhaps during the pre-check itself. The third possibility is it's a major problem. It may be something internal in the engine or internal in a differential or a transfer case or a transmission. One of the major components has an internal problem that's going to require significant labor and or parts to fix it. It may even require taking the transmission or this major component out of the car before we'll even be able to give them a price. The fourth possibility is that the results of the pre-check could be inconclusive. By that I mean that we don't have enough information based on this free pre-check to either condemn or give a clean bill of health to the component that's in question or to the vehicle in general. It's inconclusive. You have to be honest with the customer when that's the case. In the event it's inconclusive, we would want to recommend additional tests based on our findings, and we would charge for these tests typically. And I would suggest that rather than trying to bill people by the hour, we just create descriptive names for the tests, like a level 1, level 2, or level 3 diagnostic service. And of course, associating different values and amounts of time we're willing to commit to that. Because a lot of times you could, maybe give someone a level 1 diagnostic quote and go out in 5 minutes and find the problem. Well, you have a hard time charging this person for, say, an hour or an hour and a half of your time if you did that right in front of them. So you would need to basically say, we're recommending this particular diagnostic. And we're going to go over how to do that a little later in the workshop. So again, now the pre-check, just like the meet and greet had a purpose, so does the pre-check have a purpose. It's one, to confirm the customer's concerns by going on a road test, preferably with the customer, and so they can say, did you hear that? Did you feel that? And you're confirming that you're actually looking for the same thing. There's nothing worse than fixing a problem, but it turns out not to be the problem the customer came in for. You determine if there's even a problem or not. Maybe what they're concerned about is normal. We're going to determine if it's a minor or a major problem, and we're going to determine if it needs more testing. We're going to demonstrate professionalism, our attention to detail, and our concern for the customer. Again, by doing this test and doing it well, we're building more rapport and more trust. And nothing does that better than letting the customer know how much we care. We're going to build credibility and trust at the same time. And we're going to recommend the customer's best next step. Doesn't mean we're going to recommend a repair at this point. I know a lot of people have a problem with having people come in for a pre-check because they think that the customer is going to think everything's for free, but it doesn't mean it's for free. But we're going to recommend the next step, and it may be a diagnostic check that there's a fee for. So how do we go about performing the pre-check? Well, first of all, we're going to go on a road test with the customer. We're going to engage the customer in a conversation while this is going on, asking them confirming questions, asking them stuff about their car even, the history of the car and how they feel about their car. Just get to know them better during this road test. We're going to confirm their concern. We're going to note the malfunction on our written form. And then we're going to pull the vehicle in, and we may just put it in a service bay, or we may go ahead and put it up on a lift if that's appropriate to your type of business. But at that point, we want to have a technician come out and perform a visual under car or under hood type of check, or whatever seems to be appropriate for the technician now to look for any obvious simple things that could fix the problem. We're going to record the findings on the pre-check form, and we're going to make recommendations on the pre-check form. The recommendations would be for what the next step should be. And we want to also point out any visual defects to the customer at that point. If we happen to see what this noise is, he's got a loose clamp on his muffler and it's broken and the muffler's banging against the chassis, well, we want to point it out to him so we can show him what we're going to have to fix. Take the customer to the office to sell the recommended services. The reason we do that is we're going to separate the customer from his car. There's a bond that exists between the customer and their car, and we want to get that customer away from the car when we start talking about fixing it. The results of the pre-check need to be communicated to the customer. Now, we can offer certain things at this point. The first thing is an explanation of the results. I mean, that's obvious. We went on a road test. This is what we experienced. We brought it in, we checked this, we saw this was okay, this was not okay. You know, just kind of go through the list of what you found. And an explanation of what was found. If you don't want to spend a lot of time on the things that are okay, you want to spend more time on the things you found that aren't okay. Okay? An explanation of what is recommended and why you're recommending it. This is particularly important if there's a combination type of problem or if you're recommending further diagnostics. There's where you want to get into the why of what you're recommending. Explain the details of the services that you're recommending and the prices. Now remember, our promise is to give firm price quotes. If we give someone a price quote for a diagnostic, it's a firm quote for a diagnostic. It's not a firm quote for the job. We don't know what the job is yet. Don't offer estimates for internal repairs or concealed damage or rebuilds. The reason you can't is basically to do this, you're going to have to do some form of a tear-down service. Because you can't possibly know what failed, what caused the failure until you've checked it with a teardown, and then obviously you can't give an accurate price quote without that information. So on these more major types of things, we're going to recommend some sort of an inspection. Systems problems too, you know, problems with a charging system, for example, or a brake system. These types of things require some further diagnostics and perhaps even some form of a teardown in the case of brakes. Our hassle-free pledge promises accurate price quotes, not guesstimates. So, the possible recommendations, well, we have one possibility of our 4 was no problem found. What are we going to do with that? What are we going to recommend to this customer? First, we want to assure the customer that the vehicle is operating normally. We don't want the customer to leave thinking that we just overlooked the problem. Second, we want to suggest perhaps a recheck after so many miles or after so much time has passed. You know, maybe the problem is not serious enough yet that we can count on it being there, but, you know, drive it a little bit, drive it another couple of weeks. If the problem seems to become more consistent, bring her on back in. But if not, come on back anyhow. We'll go out and we'll check it again. There's no charge for this pre-check, so why not? Let's you know, maybe one of these days he'll bring it in and it will be doing the problem. Recommend any preventive maintenance services that should be done at this time. So you want to take a look at the maintenance records of the vehicle and the recommended service intervals of the vehicle. This car may come in and it's a perfect time for you to do a 30K, 60K, or 90K type service. Those are good, profitable services. Another possibility we talked about was that a minor service or repair is going to take care of the problem. So what do we do then? Well, we're going to advise the customer, number one, that a minor service or repair will correct the problem. We want to reassure them that this is the right thing to do. We're going to suggest other related services that can be done at the same time. For example, you may want to, if you're going to change one fan belt, suggest changing all the fan belts. Or if you're going to do a cooling system flush, you may want to obviously take care of a new radiator cap, hoses, and a thermostat. Other related things that could be done at the same time or should be done at the same time. Other types of things that you might consider is if you were going to do a clutch job for a customer. Now that isn't a minor service so much, but let's say you're taking the transmission and clutch assembly out for someone. It's a good time to take a look at that rear main seal for them and maybe put a new rear main seal in or some other related thing, U-joints on the driveline. Recommended scheduled preventative maintenance services that should be done at this time should be covered on this type of a repair just the same as you would with the no problem situation. And whenever possible, when you're selling these types of repairs, offer two choices. We're going to go into the importance of the two choices in a bit, but the beauty of this is if you offer a regular price and then maybe a premium price for a premium service, you may be surprised how many times they'd be willing to choose the premium service. And that premium service relates to additional sales and greater profits for the company. But you're missing the boat if you're just offering someone a basic minor service without offering some sort of a premium option. Premium option may even include a little longer warranty of some type. So what about if we have a situation where we need to charge for more diagnostics? I call these fee-based diagnostics. In other words, we're here where we have a problem that's inconclusive. The results of this test have been inconclusive. Okay, the results of the pre-check are inconclusive, and further testing is needed. You want to announce that to the customer. We need to perform one or more of these additional tests. A pressure test, a vacuum test, extended road testing. Hey, if it doesn't come up on a brief little road test, and you're going to have to go out and drive the thing 30 or 40 miles to get it to do it, or send a technician out for 20, 30, 40 minutes of road testing, you really need to start getting paid for that kind of work. Electronic control module scanning, engine electronic scanning, other forms of tests. These types of things, I like to think of it this way. The minute I have to expend extra time or attach any kind of equipment or start using tools on the car, the meter starts running and there's going to start to be a test or a charge. Now the tests, when I tell the customer, these tests will confirm if it's an electrical problem, a hydraulic problem, a mechanical problem, or some form of combination of all of these problems. And this is a great time to explain the difference between your level 1, 2, and 3 diagnostic services. You want to quote the price for whatever level service you're talking about. And you may even, if you're telling the customer, look, I think we might get it with a level 1 diagnostic, but if it runs into the level 2 diagnostic service is this many dollars, and we'll credit all of the level 1 against that. So you're not really risking anything. If we find it in level 1, great. If we don't find it in level 1, well, you already know we're going to level 2, and you get the customer's authorization for that in advance. So this is where I'm talking about here. Will any portion of this apply toward the repairs? Well, it may trade up to the next level, or it may be that some portion of your diagnostic service would apply toward the repairs as well. Now, I don't necessarily recommend you do that, but there are certain things that there might be a replication of labor in doing the test. Now, if you have a major problem or a complicated system problem, like a brake system, a cooling system, a charging system, transmission, transfer case, differential, internal engine problems, things like this, it may be necessary to do a teardown or an inspection service. They're both the same. It's just that different parts of the country and different shops use these terms interchangeably. The diagnosis has confirmed that the vehicle has a major problem. A minor service, adjustment, or repair will not correct the problem. By the way, these are the messages, the points you want to make to the customer when you're explaining what's involved in an inspection service. And it tells you what we're going to do. First, it tells you what we found, what needs to be done, and why we're going to do it. So let's start over. The diagnosis has confirmed that the vehicle has a major problem with, and you'd go into the component in question, a minor service or adjustment or a repair to this component is not going to correct the problem. An internal repair or replacement is what is needed, and the assembly will need to be removed, disassembled, and inspected to determine, 1, the extent of the damage, 2, the probable cause, because if we don't take care of the cause, it's only going to reoccur, any alternative repair solutions that we may have based on what the damage is we found, and obviously the prices associated with those various alternatives. At this point, you would then quote the price for the inspection service and advise the customer of what portion of that inspection service is likely to be applied toward the repair work should they authorize it. Obviously, if we're, let's say, a transmission, we're going to remove the transmission and disassemble it to find out what's wrong. Well, the labor to do a transmission rebuild includes those two steps, removing and disassembling and inspecting. So obviously, you would want to credit that back on one end or the other. Either you would credit back for the inspection service that you did, or you would credit it on the rebuild so that they didn't pay twice for removing the transmission and tearing it down. Then we want to address the customer's concern regarding mobility. And that's a great way to close for this service. Now, you could say something like this. Now, Mr. Customer, this inspection is going to require that we tie your car up for the better part of the day. And if you have the repairs done, it may be another day or two. So in the meantime, will you be needing replacement transportation? Now, you see, we've turned the customer's attention from the repair to meeting their mobility issue. And if we didn't do that, they may have said no to our request to do the teardown based on the fact that they didn't want to be without their car. But we've taken care of that problem. So we addressed their mobility issue. And the other beautiful thing about asking it that way is now they're just making a decision about whether they need replacement transportation. They're not making a decision about whether to go ahead. The assumption is, we're going to go ahead and do the inspection. Do you just need us to get you some transportation? And that transportation may be nothing more than a ride home, a taxi, or, more times than not, I get the answer, no, I can take care of that. I've got an extra car. But sometimes they do need a ride, or they may even need a loaner car. And I don't know very many shops out there that don't own 3 or 4 Tauruses that customers have abandoned, and you could probably get the titles to them, and you could get them fixed up and running, and they make great loaner cars. And oddly enough, we found out that the insurance isn't all that prohibitive as we thought it was. So it's not a bad alternative to have some loaner cars. But you could always make arrangements with a local rental car agency. And if you're going to have the car for a few days, you can bet the bill's going to be large enough for you to be able to absorb all or part of a rental car bill. So you might get some objections to the teardown. For example, have you ever heard this one? Couldn't you give me some sort of a ballpark or a worst case on this? Well, if you act like you hear it every day and you just quickly spit out the answer, it's not going to be nearly as effective as if you kind of pause and you say, well, I can understand why you might like to have one, but frankly, that's the purpose of the inspection. Once we've completed the inspection, we'll know what parts failed and also the probable cause of the failure so it doesn't happen again. We'll also be in a better position to discuss alternative repair choices and costs so you can make the best decision for you and your budget. At this point, we do know this much. We know that no matter what is wrong inside your transmission, say, we need to remove it in order to repair it and/or replace it. That much we do know. And as soon as the inspection is completed, you'll be in a much better position to make a decision that's best for you. Where can I reach you to discuss the results of this inspection, say in about 4 hours? So by asking the questions in this way and going over it in this way, again, now we've turned their attention away from whether we're going to go ahead and do the inspection to where can I reach them to discuss the results. Today there's a lot of talk about reman units, both in the area of engines and transmissions, and the question is, how can I effectively sell them? Well, the inspection and the remans can kind of go hand in hand, so let's take a look at this one. Traditionally, transmissions and engines have been rebuilt on-site by 1 or 2 specialists. Again, these are things you would say to the customer. Using your own words, these are just the points you want to make. But today, there are hundreds of variations of transmissions and engines out there. And nobody could be a specialist in all of those different varieties. So you're making a valid point to the customer. They can't really argue with that. We have a preferred buying status with a number of suppliers of remanufactured, and you name what it is, transmissions, engines, differentials, whatever the component is we're dealing with. But we have preferred buying status with a number of different suppliers of these types of remanufactured units. And because they specialize, it gives us the opportunity to deliver a higher, more consistent quality and to keep our prices more competitive. All the components that we get are pre-tested on dynos, and that's before they're installed in your car. Actually, it's before they get back to us. However, we still can provide personalized custom services in a lot of cases. So we'll be able to better determine what's best for you after we have your transmission removed and inspected, your transfer case removed and inspected. So basically what we said is we might be able to fix it here, even though we have the ability to go to a remanufacturer to get the part, but we may be able to fix it here, but we need to get it out and take a look at it first. I'll get some competitive bids together for you, and in the meantime, we know that our total labor to remove it and inspect it and install it will run just X dollars. So shall we go ahead and get started with the removal process for the sake of time? So no matter what goes back, what we're going to do, something's got to go back in that car, right? The old one's got to come out, right? So if we just talk about the labor to remove it, inspect it, and reinstall it, now we're back in business, and we're going to get the permission to go ahead and do the removal. And again, notice our focus isn't on whether to do it or not so much in this case. It's about time. Should we go ahead and get started to save you the time of waiting? So when we go to sell the job, if you're selling the job based on the results of a pre-check form or a parts list off of a teardown inspection report, then you're going to want to follow this procedure. You're going to explain the findings before you start selling. I might even go this far. You want to go back and start by explaining what had happened so far. All the way back to when you called me on the phone this morning, you told me you were having this problem with your car, and we invited you in and we did our free pre-check. In the free pre-check, we confirmed the problem that you were experiencing, and we determined that it was something inside of your, we'll say, transmission, and therefore we recommended removing the transmission to do an inspection. After we removed it, I've gotten this teardown report from my technician, and we're about now to go over those findings with you. So you start in. This particular one, I went ahead and I assumed that we were doing a brake job. So picking the transmission probably was the wrong thing to there. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to say that this customer came in and they had a grinding noise in their brakes. And so we went through and our diagnostic confirmed, our pre-check diagnostic confirmed that we needed to do a brake system inspection. So we're going over the results with the customer now. Our diagnosis confirms that there was extensive damage within your brake system. The damage involved the parts that are normally or typically part of a job like this, namely your brake pads. But in your case, there was also damage to your rotors. This happened because you kept driving after the pads were worn, and that damaged the rotors. So we'll need to replace them rather than just resurfacing them as we would in a normal brake job. Now, your brake system also depends on clean brake fluid to operate the hydraulic brake system itself. Your fluid's contaminated, so the system needs to be flushed and new fluid installed. Now, this is where we're actually talking about something else related to the job rather than what they just came in for. Also, while we were removing your brake system, we noticed that the right front CV axle is showing some signs of damage. Now, it's not yet broken, but maybe the boot's cracked. You know, I mean, you describe to them what you found as the damage. So while we were removing your brake system, we noticed that the right front CV axle is showing some signs of damage. At this time, we could save you the added labor and inconvenience of replacing it later by doing it now. So you're kind of couching it here as almost like you're doing a favor. And you are, really. You are saving the money and the inconvenience. What if the thing broke later? God forbid the thing breaks 3 or 4 days after you just did the brakes. Who do you think is going to be blamed for it? So it's important to point these things out. The labor is essentially covered by what we're already doing, so the added cost is mainly just for the CV axle. Now, you may say, no, there's extra labor to take that axle out of there, and on some cars it could be quite a bit extra labor. But really, once the brakes are off, the extra labor on most cars isn't that much, and you could actually make up for it in what you're charged for the axle. Or you haven't said here that you're doing it for no labor. You're just saying that there will be some labor savings. So again, wherever there's replicated labor, go ahead and show a credit. I've prepared a couple of different ideas and estimates for you. Now this is where you make the offer. This is what we're offering to do. We're not ready to close yet. I've prepared 2 alternatives for you to consider. Option 1 would be to purchase the parts directly from the dealer. They'd be just like the ones that came on your car and have now failed. You notice that there's a little bit of a jab there. Just like the ones that came on your car and have now failed. They come with a 12-month, 12,000-mile warranty. To do option 2, however, what I would do is I'd purchase your parts from a supplier that sells parts that are made by, name a company, Bendix. I can't think of another. Raybestos, Borg Warner. You know, name the company you're going to use. Brake company. They specialize in making brake systems, and unlike the manufacturer who makes brake systems as well as all the other components on your car, like seats and dashboards, you make the list as long as you want here, but unlike them, they specialize just in making brakes, and they do a great job of it. And since they specialize, they offer a full 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty on parts. And we believe so much in their quality that we'll stand behind their parts for a full 3 years, 36 miles on our labor too. Now, we're going to turn a shopper into a buyer with a close. Now, the job with the original style parts, with our labor, and with a 12-month, 12,000-mile warranty, comes to just $422.29, including all the fluids, flushing the system, and the CV axle. But the same job with the XYZ brand parts that come with a full 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty is just $486.96. In fact, that's a difference of just $64.67. So I guess really the only question is, for the difference of $64.67, would you like us to do the one with a 12-month warranty or the one with a 3-year warranty? That's your close. Now, SUS means shut up, silly. Wait for them to answer. You've asked them a question. The silence is deafening. Let them sit there and think. That's probably what they're doing, is they're debating which one do they want. Don't assume that their silence is a problem. Ask the question. So I guess the only question is, for the difference of just $64.67, would you like us to do the one with a 12-month warranty or the one with a 3-year warranty? Now, when they finally say which one they want you to do, whichever one it is, don't argue with them. They've thought it over. They've decided. We're letting them be buyers now, not shoppers. The shopping's over. They've said, I'd just soon have the less expensive one. I'm going to get rid of the car. So whichever one they choose, congratulate them on making a good choice and reassure them. Just say, you know, congratulations. I think that's a great choice. Under the circumstances, if I owned a car I was going to get rid of, I'd probably have chosen that one too. Customer says, I want to get the best one. I'm keeping this car forever. Great choice. That's the one I'd pick if I was keeping my car too. So either way, you reassure them, because either way, you've made the sale. All right, well, let's look at the dynamics and the financial aspects of this particular sale just for a minute. First of all, we have established a premium value in the mind of the customer with the longer warranty and our statements about the aftermarket supplier. We haven't come out and said they're better than the original equipment supplier. All we've said is they give a longer warranty and they specialize, that they don't make all the other parts. And implicit in that was greater value, and particularly in the area of the longer warranty, and particularly when I said, and we believe so much in their quality, that we'll even extend our labor warranty as long as theirs. The other thing is, and the thing I get the most concern when I teach this little technique is, well, I don't want to give a 3-year warranty. Well, guys and gals, think about it this way. How many brake jobs do you have? Let's say you did 1,000 brake jobs. Let's keep it simpler, 100 brake jobs. Out of 100, how many of them won't go 3 years or 36,000 miles? Let's say even 10 of them didn't go the extra distance. You've gotten, out of this extra 100 jobs, you've gotten an extra $65 or $6,500 extra to cover the cost of doing those 10 that may have come back out of the 100. And I think that's a huge number, 10 out of 100 that don't go 3 years 36. So you've built more profit into the job, and you've built more value into the job. And not to mention, is this customer going to go anywhere else over the next 3 years, 36,000 miles? This customer is married to you, and you're probably going to get all the rest of the work related to that car. So when they make that choice for the 3-year 36, that's a great deal for you. And it's not a bad deal if they choose the less expensive one. The workshop recap involves our procedural steps. 1, the telephone. We talked about that in workshop number 2. Today we began with a meet and greet. What are the steps of the meet and greet? Establishing rapport is the key. In the free pre-check, this is where we continue to establish rapport, but we also spell out for the customer what we're going to be doing for free and what the possible results of the pre-check are. The 4 possible results. 4 possible results are: there may not be a problem at all, it may be a minor problem, it could be a major problem, or the results could be inconclusive, and we need to do more testing. By telling them this in advance, they're fully prepared for whatever may come, whatever may result from doing this pre-check, and so when we go in to sell them on whatever the next step is, they're already expecting that we're going to be coming back to let them know something or sell them something. They're not going to be blindsided. We sell knowledge and diagnostics. We don't give away what we know or our diagnostic services. We charge for them. We sell teardowns and inspections when it's necessary. If it's a complicated system or a major component, before we can quote a price, we need to do an inspection. We sell choices when we finally know what's wrong. We give them repair choices: a regularly priced job and a premium priced job with a premium warranty. And with the extra margins that are built into it and the extra amount we charge, the cost of any potential warranty exposure is fully covered and then some. It's a much more profitable way to do business. What separates good teams from great teams? It's doing the right things in the right ways for the right reasons, even when nobody's looking. And what you have to do that, everybody has to know what needs to be done. Everybody needs to know how it needs to be done. Everybody needs to know why it needs to be done. We have to do it right. We have to do it right for the right reasons. We need to do it consistently, and we need to do it passionately. So what's next? Our next seminar, our final seminar in this workshop series, is how to create customers for life. And we do it with good record keeping, good repair orders, warranties, doing a nice job, presenting nice stuff. You know, when the customer leaves, the only tangible thing they have are the actual papers they get, the repair order and their warranty document. That's the only tangible thing they have, because automotive repairs by nature are invisible products. The car delivery, the way in which we give back the car to the customer, the way we explain what we did. The post-service follow-ups. How do we stay in touch with the customer? How do we get the customer to come back for further services and become a customer for life? Have them think of us as their car repair company. And how do we properly handle comebacks? This little section is what I call Why I Love Comebacks. And we define what a comeback is. And we define different ways for handling comebacks. Whether they're irate customers or they're not irate customers, they're handled differently. We're going to look at that. So with all that said, I hope that you've learned a lot today and that you're ready to get out there and start using some of these procedures and implement them. I look forward to seeing you in our final session. I want to thank you for listening today.